Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Soul Talk Season 2. Today, I'm extremely honored to have with us Gauranga Darshan Das ji. A no name, he needs absolutely no introduction. A disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami. He's an educator, he's an author, he has been, of course, he's a monk, and he has been a professional. His journey is truly inspiring. He is the Dean of Bhakti Vedanta Vidyapit at ISKCON Govardhan Eco Village outside of Mumbai. He regularly conducts online and residential spiritual courses for children, teens, as well as for adults, and has delivered a mind boggling nearly 7,500 hours of spiritual discourses in different forums. That includes ashrams, schools, colleges like IITs and NITs, corporate events and platforms like TEDx, Intel, Tech Mahindra, Alstom, DRDO, ISRO, and so on. He is a member of the ISKCON Board of Examinations and the GEV Administrative Council and oversees the temple worship and Vrindavan Forest at GEV. Sir, welcome and thank you so much for accepting this invite and being part of Soul Talks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, would you like to begin with a message to our viewers?
I'm very grateful to Soul Wellness for having me on your show. And even more than that, for all your wonderful efforts to bring some serenity and some kind of harmony in the lives of people by organizing so many such talks from people who are experts in various fields. This kind of work that's very beneficial to the humanity is worth appreciating. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So you have authored multiple. I'll start with your author background first. So you have authored multiple books, including Dhruva, Secrets of Bhakti. Now, how do you ensure that all your written work aligns with your teaching philosophy? And what impact does your writing have on overall well-being of people?
What I write and what I speak is more or less the same. One is in the written form, one is in the spoken form. And the source of both, whether it is speech or written book, the source of both is same. The timeless wisdom of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and many such great scriptures like Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. So I learn from these books and I learn from teachers who speak from these books. And I also present my understanding along with some reflections and some introspection, some personal experiences. And that's what I do in my writing or in my speaking. So apart from sharing what I have learned, I also make a humble, feeble effort to apply what I have learned. I aspire to follow these wonderful principles taught by our great scriptures and our great acharyas, teachers, gurus since ages. And so that aspiration, although I'm not yet perfect, yes, I have a long way to go in the spiritual path, but still I know where to go at least. Because they have set the standard. So this is what a living being is supposed to be doing. This is what a human being is supposed to be according to dharma. So I try to follow them. So I share what I learn. And as far as how this kind of studying, learning, hearing, and sharing helps me is concerned, it helps me contemplate. When I write or when I speak, based on what I hear or read, it helps me contemplate. It helps me internalize what I have learned more. And at a basic level, when I share or write, when I speak or write, it's like revising and remembering, recollecting. But on a higher level, it's like retaining. The more you revise and recollect and remember, you retain what you have learned. And you contemplate, you introspect more on what you have learned and try to connect your personal life with the teachings that you have received. You can internalize it, you can assimilate it,
Sure.
you realize it eventually. So there's repetition, revision, remembrance have their role to play in retaining it and also realizing it. And also Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Macchitta Madgata Prana Bodhayantaha Parasparam Kathayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Charamanti Cha. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that my devotees, spiritual seekers, what they do is they offer their mind to me, they always think about me, and they discuss about me with each other. So spiritual seekers are those people who discuss spiritual subject matters with other spiritual seekers. They teach each
Sure.
other. Bhadayantaha Paraspara means they teach each other, they enlighten each other. It's not like one
Mhm.
way. When I discuss with someone what I learned, I also seek to learn from what the other person has learned from bona fide sources. So thus we enhance our understanding, our learning, our knowledge. We become more refined in our character and in our overall demeanor. So this kind of discussions, either in the form of giving discourses or just a speech or private conversations with other spiritual seekers. So this kind of discussions, what they do is they bring us closer to each other, and together we come closer to God.
Sure.
So it's like if one person is like studying some scriptures and spiritual books, trying to develop more understanding about the Supreme Lord, so they come closer to God. If this person shares what he or she understood with another person, they also come closer to God,
That
and
elevate. Sure.
it's like they are elevating their consciousness together. So it's like not just this way parallelly, it's like this.
Sure.
Right? So we come closer to the Lord, we come closer to the virtues that we are
Sure.
learning, virtues, values, principles, and come closer to each other.
Sure. Um, and your personal journey in a lot of ways. I mean, of course, your teachings, of course, your philosophy, of course, your lessons, your books, and everything are inspirational. But your personal journey itself is very inspirational. Having gone through, having been part of the corporate world as a professional, having been, doing your masters in IISc, having done, corporate world for a couple of years. So, can you talk about, this shift from the call it the corporate realm to the spiritual realm?
Hmm. During my college days, I came in touch with Bhagavad Gita. Of course, I knew Bhagavad Gita since my childhood. My father used to read Bhagavad Gita, recite the shlokas from Bhagavad Gita, and we used to live close to temples in South India, Andhra Pradesh, where so many Vaishnava temples are there. So I had some exposure to Gita and Gita shlokas before. But during my masters, I have actually studied the Bhagavad Gita. Earlier, I only had the experience of recitation and hearing. Now I developed that taste to actually read the shlokas, understand their meanings, and
Mhm.
deeper imports of all these shlokas from the explanations of His Divine Grace. You see, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So I read his explanations of Bhagavad Gita, so that I really felt myself resonating with those teachings, Krishna's teachings and the Gita. So eventually, when I took a job in Pune and in Mumbai, I felt that uh, I think let me give a try to live only for the sake of service to the Lord and the service to humanity. And one of the most important and heart-touching teachings of my own Guru, Radhana Swami, is loving God means to love God, to love those who love God, to love those who are trying to love God, and to love those whom God loves. He gave a wonderful definition of spiritual life. The
Sure.
spiritual
The
life,
fourth one will include everyone, I guess.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Spiritual life means to love God ultimately. We to come closer to the Lord. But when we actually are aspiring to love God or become lovers of God, what should be our demeanor? So when we love God, it's not just between me and God only.
Mhm.
Now, those who love God, those who are perfect in their spiritual life, and those who are trying to love God, means they're seekers. They're not yet perfect in their connection with the Lord, but they're trying. They're
Sure.
trying to make a connection with the Lord. So they're practitioners. So we love practitioners of spiritual life, and we love those whom God loves. Whom does God not love? Everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Advance in spiritual life, we will not have any hatred or envy or jealousy towards any living being. No
Sure.
negativity. So that's the essence of spiritual life. So I became attracted to such wonderful teachings of my guru Radhana Swami and our founder Acharya Prabhupada and many other wonderful devotees who are practicing spiritual life sincerely and sharing their wisdom. So I thought, let me give it a try. And 15 years passed, and I only felt more and more inspired to continue on the spiritual path. So that's the transition. Attraction towards the teachings of scriptures and saints.
Great. Let me now jump into this, question that I myself always keep struggling. I have been working in the mental wellness industry. I mean, if I could call it an industry, but I've been working on mental wellness for the last 4 years. And I have a very sincere belief that everybody needs to have a very unique and personalized experience of mental wellness in everything that they get.
Hmm.
And I have tried to create an ecosystem that could offer people that kind of a capability.
Hmm.
And spirituality for me almost sits at the corner, at the center stage of everything that would flow around it. So, can you talk about specifically in this fast-paced digital world, in this current environment where everybody seems to have some kind of anxiety, everybody seems to have a lot of stress in their everyday world, and I mean, almost none of them are ready for monkhood yet. So I'm not talking about give up and go down that run, but how can spirituality help them with where they are in their current lives while doing everything that they are doing today, all the responsibilities, all the life realms, all the good, bad, ugly that they have around them. Within that, what kind of a role can spirituality play as they look at their mental health?
Hmm. Very good, practical, and relevant question. Uh, Monks are always a minority in the universal history. So everybody need not and should not become a monk. There are a few people who are very much inspired, but it's not necessary. And as you said, you have very wonderfully described the condition of the world where people have stress, anxiety. How can they practice spirituality and then deal with that anxiety? Basically, we cannot avoid anxieties,
Mhm.
cannot avoid distresses and problems in this world. Problems are inevitable, whoever you may be.
Yep.
Whether you are living in India or America, you're a man or a woman, or a corporate person, or even a monk,
Mhm. Sure.
there are problems.
Sure.
There are no financial problems, there are physical problems, health problems. So there are problems in this world. In fact, birth itself is a problem. It's a painful thing. So no child takes birth with a broad smile on the face. Every child, as soon as he comes out of the mother's womb, he cries, he or she cries, right?
Mhm.
So death is a problem, old age is a problem, disease is a problem, financial stability problem, job security problem, COVID pandemic recently problem. So problems are there. So spiritual life helps us to calm down our mind and find calm amidst chaos. There is chaos in this world. It's a chaotic world. There are problems. So you may not be able to solve all the problems. As far as it is humanly possible, you try to solve the problems.
Sure.
But when it goes beyond your human ability to solve the problem, then you have to accept it. You
Sure.
have to, you need to try to live with it. Sometimes you have some kind of physical ailment and then you go to a doctor gives some medicine or some tonic or some injection. In 2, 3 days you're all right. Maybe in 1 week you're all right. Sometimes when you go to a doctor, he will say that you have to live with this problem whole life. So there is no uh, possibility of avoiding problems, but we can only try to keep our calm and cool and composure amidst so many such problems. So for
Sure.
that, Bhagavad Gita gives a beautiful formula. Matra sparshastu kaunteya sitoshna sukha dukkhadah agamapayino nityastamsi tikshasva bharata. Krishna says that problems in this world are inevitable. Sukha and dukkha, happiness and distress are inevitable. just as heat and cold are inevitable. So you need to learn the art of tolerance. When there is a happy moment, you can rejoice it. You can celebrate that happy moment, but you can't be so over elated, overconfident, become proud or arrogant. And there is a distressful moment. You need to deal with it, but you can't be so depressed or demotivated or discouraged or dysfunctional. Right? So understand the transient nature of all these dualities in this world and cultivate the art of tolerance. And spirituality gives us that inner strength to cultivate that quality of tolerance. And there is a quality beyond tolerance also, that is equanimity.
Vanity.
Equanimity,
Absolutely.
in tolerance, you are understanding the difference between happiness and distress. This is happiness, this is distress, and I have to tolerate. When you come to the level of equanimity, there is no difference between tolerance and distress only. There is no difference between happiness and distress only. Both are same because both are temporary. I'll give a simple example. You are traveling on the road in a car. When there's a green signal, you can just proceed. But when there's a red signal, you have to stop.
Sure.
And if you have to reach the destination faster, that red signal increases anxiety in you. You become a little restless. When will it stop? When will it become green? So it's becoming, sometimes traffic jams can be half an hour or 1 hour also, sometimes in Mumbai especially. So, uh, but when you're traveling in an airplane, will the red signal stop you? Will the green signal be of any relevance to you? Red signal exists, green signal exists.
Mhm.
They are relevant and they have an effect and impact on only people who are traveling on the road, not someone who's traveling in an airplane.
Sure.
Similarly, when we elevate our consciousness to a higher plane, to spiritual consciousness, at that level of spiritual consciousness, the trivial problems of this world and those so-called happy moments and distressful moments are of no relevance to the soul.
Sure.
You can see both of them on an equal plane.
Sure. Um, so, what would be your thoughts on the importance of social connections in combating the current loneliness and the isolation that exists? I mean, considering how we live our lives today. So, while we are all connected online, we often really lack meaningful offline connections, meaningful offline interactions. So, what would be your thoughts around that?
The word offline, we are using it just as against to online.
Sure, sure. Fair enough.
It was never an online interaction, traditionally speaking. This online interaction started in the recent past, especially after COVID, it became even more intense.
So, it's
Online
probably a decade old, but in the last 4 years, it has taken a life of its own.
Yeah, correct. Online. And we also do a lot of online classes now, online Sangha.
Mhm.
COVID restricted our gatherings, as you said, offline interactions because of the social distancing. Then we started online satsang programs. Thus,
Yeah.
our online spiritual interactions have increased, but it's good. Somehow or the other, they're in good.
My
Uh,
mom does satsang twice in a day and on Zoom only. So, I mean, before COVID, she used to actually go physically to a place, but for the last 4 years, and she's fairly satisfied with it, being able to connect, being able to touch, being able to kind of, interact with people and being able to be part of that satsang twice in a day.
Basically, whether it is online or offline, the sincerity of purpose matters. Uh, what is our intention behind interacting with other people? Sometimes uh, a toxic person may interact with another person with an exploitative or manipulative mentality. A genuine person interacts with other person with a very, very genuine emotion,
Sure.
with prejudice or anything like that. So whether it is online interaction or offline interaction, the interaction has to be genuine. But the problem is that uh, in the online platform, sometimes we become too allured by the glare of what's being presented there, and we think that illusory world is reality, and we become far from the actual reality. Uh, we use phones to stay connected with everyone, but sometimes we get disconnected, or most of the times we get disconnected from the real world in the name of being connected with the world. So as much as possible, we need to have personal one-to-one, face-to-face interactions as much as possible. But if they're not possible, then we can use online platforms. We are not hating technology. Technology has its great role to play in life, in living a more enhanced quality of life. But we need to use the technology in an appropriate manner.
Mhm.
Speaking, whether you use online platform or direct face-to-face interactions, you need to interact with the person, not artificially but naturally. When you're calling, you're directly talking to a person that has certain experience. You're calling someone on phone, there also emotions can be exchanged
Sure.
when there is genuinity in the heart. Uh, okay, let me give you a simple example. Uh, Here's a sofa, like there's a pillow. Mhm. So when I put my head on this pillow, definitely I feel it's very soft. I may kind of relax myself, relax my body. But when I'm very anxious, when I experience some pain, when I'm in some depression or some kind of internal contempt, internal, what to say, discontent, then if I have a friend next to me, if I put my head on the shoulder of that friend, that will solace me better than this sofa. Sofa may be softer than the shoulder, but what a shoulder can do, sofa cannot do.
What undo? Absolutely.
So a person is a person, a thing is a thing, an object is an object, a gadget is a gadget. So we cannot minimize our personal interactions in the name of no, getting addicted to technology. But even in online platform, be personal in your interactions, not
Sure.
impersonal. Someone was
Sure.
telling me, I have to write a love letter to my lover, and I use ChatGPT to generate a love letter. And within 1 minute, I wrote a very poetic love letter and then sent her. Are you expressing your love or something else?
Somebody else's love, I guess.
You can artificial love or what? Real love. And you get reply also. Reply also may be AI generated. Then
Ab-
let AI interact, na? Let them love each other. Why
Absolutely.
human beings are there?
Absolutely.
Human interactions.
Mhm. Um, can you provide some thoughts around? I mean, one of the key challenges that is facing almost everybody around right now is substance abuse. Either, most people, either they themselves or they are in touch, or they are related to people that are undergoing some sort of substance abuse. And I use the word substance abuse a little bit loosely here. I'm not just talking about substance abuse as in terms of a drug abuse or a tobacco abuse or a alcohol abuse. I'm also including within this aspect of substance abuse as in addictions of other kinds. So from a spiritual perspective, what can, and one of the backgrounds is we are currently working on a tech based capability where we will be able to provide almost like a replacement of the de-addiction centers, so creating a tech based capability which would enable everything that they get in a in a de-addiction center. But while we are creating this, and this program we are bringing in from outside India, so while it has everything, while it has a lot of knowledge in it, while it has a lot of tools and techniques in it, we think it is missing that one aspect of spirituality, which has to be a key kind of center point for it as well. So, what would be your thoughts on spirituality, specifically when it comes to substance abuse?
Whether it is substance abuse or any other kind of problem or anxiety that people face, it ultimately boils down to misunderstanding of one's own identity.
Sure.
Uh, we have multiple identities in this world. Somebody may be a student, somebody may be a teacher, somebody may be a actor, somebody may be a doctor, someone may be a builder or a businessman or a platform developer or whatever, YouTuber, Instagrammer, social media influencer. There are multiple different identities coming up. But these identities are temporary,
Sure.
isn't it? Today's student can become a teacher tomorrow. Today's doctor can become a patient tomorrow. So
Mhm.
identities are temporary. Beyond all these inevitable, necessary, temporary identities, there is a permanent identity. We are souls. We are spirit souls. We are all lovers of God. We are all children of God. We are
Mm-hmm.
all amshas of God, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamaivamsho jiva loke jiva bhutas sanatanaha. All the jivas, all the living beings are my amshas, my parts. Just as God is spiritual, the living beings who are children of God, they are also spiritual in nature. So we need to first realize, at least intellectually understand our spiritual identities and
Mm-hmm.
do connection with that identity.
Sure.
Uh, Now, for example, a student joins in a college, and the primary identity of that student is a student of that college in, say, civil engineering or mechanical engineering. But along with that identity of being a student in that engineering college, he also has other identities. I'm friend of so and so, this batch, this group. He may have five, six friends. I'm their friend, or I'm a young man. I need to enjoy. I need to explore. I need to go to movies. I need to go to parties, etc. So while embracing that student identity, this person is also overwhelmed by multiple other temporary identities, right? And he is doing the needful according to those identities. He is taking up so many activities in connection with all those identities. But he's forgetting his original identity as a student. He has to study, right? Similarly, to take it in a to to give a broader perspective to this, we are all spiritual beings. We have a spiritual identity. Now, parents will ask that spoiled student, child, that you're a student, your primary activity is to study, and you're doing so many extracurricular activities, partying, this and that, so many other things. What happened to this identity?
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, you're a spiritual personality. Now you're a spiritual soul. So, what are you doing about your spiritual identity? You're too caught up in the material identities, external identities, and seeking pleasures in those external identities and trying to avoid the pressures in those external identities. We get into substance abuse or other kind of addictions, and you give a broader perspective of the substance abuse, not only drugs or alcohol, but you broadened it. So all these are because of a misunderstanding of one's own real spiritual identities. So when we try to practice spiritual life, and try to revive our original spiritual identity and be conscious of our spiritual identity as children of God, and engage in spiritual activities like meditation, worship, studying wisdom texts, Shastra, like Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, then internally we experience a lot of peace, where we don't try to search for peace through substance abuse. Somebody says, why are you drinking alcohol? Why are you taking these drugs? I want pleasure. When we are seeking spiritual pleasure at the level of soul, we don't seek material pleasure on the level of body, right? So, but that so-called pleasure is actually degrading the person, not enlivening the person. But when we seek spiritual pleasure in connection with God through meditation, through worship and all, then you will elevate your consciousness and you will be physically also healthy. And you will be able to deal with the problems in the world, anxieties in this world in a more effective and refined and mature manner. So that's how spirituality definitely helps. We do this mantra meditation. The meaning of the mantra is Manaha Trayate iti mantraha. That which regulates the mind and thus protects the mind is a mantra. Okay, mantra protects the mind. So chanting mantras like Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, or Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these kind of Vedic mantras that are filled with the names of God will establish a connection between ourselves and God, and that gives us the inner peace and calm within, where we can deal with the chaos outside. Then we don't need to get into this substance abuse and all that. Does it make sense?
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So, being part of the spiritual realm, being able to seek that pleasure and being able to seek that peace through spirituality, is in a lot of ways. We won't be degrading our physical sense. We won't be degrading our body. We won't need to go through substance abuse. That's really, what you're talking about. Thank you so much for that. So, can I ask you, as you play multiple hats. I mean, an educator, an author, a monk. I'm sure you have a lot of responsibilities for the center. How do you maintain and ensure that you have the right focus and the right productivity as you go through all of these different roles for yourself? And I want you to answer this specifically in terms of how the audiences can use it in their lives as they go through. I mean, not just as a more conscious soul, but really from the perspective of a common man.
Yes, definitely. I'll conclude my answer to your question with a practical tip, which is more actionable for you, for everyone, because it has been actionable for me.
Sure.
Now you mentioned some of my roles, like as an educator, as a monk, as an author. For example, as an educator, I primarily need to educate, means teach. Apart from teaching, means speaking, I also need to do academic administration.
Sure.
That is how to inculcate the teachings.
Mm-hmm.
You spoke about my role as an author also. Author means primarily I have to write. Apart from writing, actually that writing is a product of contemplation. I need to think a lot.
Sure.
I need to reflect on my experiences and what I have learned. I need to connect my personal practical life with what I have learned from the books, from the ageless, timeless wisdom like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And also, I need to see how this writing is relevant for the person who is reading.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to see how this teaching is relevant for the person who is hearing. So there is a lot of contemplation and thought that goes into it. Then my another role is monk. Not role, I am a monk. As a monk, I do education and writing. So as a monk, my primary duty is to do sadhana, my spiritual practices. That involves early morning chanting. We chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. We offer our prayers to Guru, and we associate with other monks. That is called satsang. We do our sadhana. So that's my sadhana or my spiritual practices are the source of my strength. Then only I can do my other services like writing or teaching, right? So for this, to be able to effectively manage all this, we need to manage the available time. We have 24 hours in a day. Whether you
Mm-hmm.
are a monk or a app developer or a student or a teacher or a professional or a businessman, everybody has only 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they are beggars or millionaires, whether they are toppers or dullers in the class, they all have 24 hours in a day. So how effectively are we using our 24 hours uh, like leads to our productivity and our performance. So I have one formula which I have given in my recent book Mindful Me also. TAP management, TAP, TAP management. T for time, time management. A for attention management. P for priority management. Time management means you have a list of tasks to do. You have 10 things to do in a day. You allocate time. This task I will do in 1 hour. This task I need 2 hours. This task I can finish in 20 minutes. Like that, you allocate time. But just allocating time is not sufficient. Okay, you have nicely planned your 24 hours, this much for sleeping, this much for eating, this much for other things, this much for the tasks. You have definitely allocated nicely, but time allocation is not sufficient. Apart from time management, we need to do attention management. Let me
Sure.
give an example. In our temple, we have a service. We need to wash the vessels of the Lord. Have you seen an Achaman cup, copper cup, which is
Yes.
copper cup? So we have a big vessel that's filled with tamarind water. And we take all the Achaman cups, all the copper vessels, and then immerse it in this tamarind water.
Mm-hmm.
That copper, when it comes in contact with tamarind, it automatically becomes clean.
Sure.
One day I went to do my service. So all the Achaman cups, the copper cups, were immersed in the tamarind water by the pujari who went before me. But one cup I have seen, it's floating on the water. Half of the cup is immersed inside the tamarind water, half the cup is floating, half the cup is above the surface. I
Mm-hmm.
picked it up. So I saw the portion that is immersed in the water
Clean.
shining bright pink. And the portion which is outside the water, it's very dark. So I took my scrubber and took some detergent, Vim bar I took, and then started scrubbing it. It's not going. I thought, okay, let me just immerse it back in the tamarind water completely. Meanwhile, I'll wash the other utensils. Then after half an hour, I can take it out and then wash. So I did that. Then after half an hour or whatever, 20 minutes, the cup was very clean. Why I said this experience of mine is that when we don't give full attention to what we are doing, we'll only get half results. So apart from time allocation to your tasks, you need to also be attentive in doing what you're doing. When you 1 hour, and if you're attentive, that 1 hour is 1 hour. But if you allocate 1 hour, in that 1 hour, 10 times you are checking your Instagram notifications and Facebook notifications, then that 1 hour becomes 10 minutes only. So attention management is very important.
Sure.
Okay, you have allocated time, you're attentive also. But another important thing is priority management. Is it really the thing worthy of my time?
Sure.
So do priority management. So tap management is what I try to do. I try to suggest to all the students that I'm speaking to. So by doing so, you can be effective in your spiritual practices also. Let me conclude with one more tip. Very effective tip. Get up early in the morning and sleep early in the night.
Mhm.
Suggestion you have must have heard hundreds and thousands of times, but there are millions and trillions of people who don't follow it. And they naturally experience so much of anxiety. Uh, of course, sometimes when there is some urgency, you may have to do some late nights and all that. So that's required. Now, recently, yesterday only I came from Singapore. I was traveling to 5 countries and I came back to India. So there's some little jet lag. Your sleep patterns may change for a couple of days, but you
Sure.
need to come to the routine. Mhm. So sleeping early in the night and getting up early in the morning, preferably before the sun gets up,
Sure.
before the sun rises in that locality. So that works wonders. That
Absolutely.
you do early in the morning, especially in the Brahma Muhurta period, at the time of sunrise,
Mhm.
you are very fresh. You can be more focused. Now, if you need 3 hours to do a task during the day, you can complete in 2 hours or 1 hour or maybe half an hour in the early in the morning.
Absolutely. In fact, not just that, let me extend that a little bit. What I always tell, my fellow colleagues, and what I always tell people, as a leader, the people that work for me, I always tell them, if you want to be a good leader, start your day at least 30 minutes to an hour before everybody else does. In
Mm.
that 30 minutes to an hour, you take care of all personnel related issues.
Mm.
In that 30 minutes to an hour, you chart out your plan for the day.
Mm.
And if you are able to accomplish, a good semblance of these two tasks, one, your day will go super productive. And two, you will always be ahead of the game versus people that would start their day late. Many times, they just end up chasing their day the whole day. So
Yes, sir.
I absolutely, absolutely agree. Starting early, waking up early, starting early, and of course, you are also talking about the spiritual significance of it, which is waking up before the sun wakes up. Uh, Absolutely.
And
Thank you so
able to,
much. Thank you so much for those.
yeah, to be able to get up early in the morning, we should cultivate a habit of sleeping early in the night.
Sure.
Sleep at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the night, and getting up at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock will not work for us, right?
Sure. I am not the right person to talk about that one portion. I have a 4 to 5 hour sleep cycle. So I
Okay.
usually do sleep at 12 and I usually do wake up before 5 o'clock. But yeah, I mean, just like mental health, I always say, your sleep is your sleep. If you need 8 hours, sleep early, sleep for 8. You need 10, sleep earlier and sleep for 10, depending on however many hours, whatever you.
That's wonderful.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for being part of this Soul Talks. As I said earlier, I hope the audience will enjoy it, will learn from it, will get wisdom from it as much as I did over the last 45 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My best wishes for all your endeavors to bring wellness in the people's lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you.